Hello and welcome to Real-ationship Talk, their podcast hosted by yours truly, Teresha Young, relationship master coach, where we have open, non-judgmental, heart-to-heart conversations about love, self-love, self-care, dating, and relationships. And for this week's episode, I am being joined by the fantastic Colette Machado, who is a former BBC News journalist, online magazine publisher, and national newspaper editor, a role she landed at the young age of 24, which made her one of the UK's youngest ever editors. Congratulations, Colette.
Thank you.
She now works in the field of financial education as a financial educator, and she's been doing this for more than 10 years now, educating individuals and families on how money works and how to work their money in order to understand key financial concepts that we should all have learned at school but didn't, so that they can plan for a better financial future. How fantastic. Colette, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Teresha, and thank you for having me on your show today. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, you're more than welcome, and a complete honor to have you here to educate us about money and how it works. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
It's Relationship Talk, so it's about love and relationships, but it's also about self-growth and self-empowerment. So before we get into the topic of love and relationships, Colette, I would absolutely love for you to share with us some of the key highlights that led you to becoming a financial educator, that led you on your career path and your life journey to becoming a financial educator.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So it was when I was on maternity leave with my youngest son, who's now 12, and my brother-in-law was training in a financial education business, and he said to myself, he said to my husband, which is his brother, that he needed a sort of kind of guinea pig client to kind of help him get trained. So my husband said yes. So one day, one Friday evening, my brother-in-law and his trainer in the business came round to the house, and they then showed us. They went through a financial education presentation on his laptop, and then gathered some information from myself and my husband, which was then going to go into a financial plan. On the second appointment, he brought back the plan. And even on that first appointment, as he was turning the pages and he was kind of educating us on various concepts, such as how we can pay our mortgage off quicker, and if you've got debt, how you can come out of debt quicker. You think you might be going to be in debt for 10, 50, well, that forever. You don't really know when you're going to come out of debt if you're paying your credit card debts and loans just every month, kind of thinking it's soon. But he was kind of really educating us that no, actually, if you are paying credit card and loan debts, you're actually never going to come out of debt. It's revolving debt. So just some real education concepts. And as he turned the pages, it was quite interesting. I thought, this is quite interesting. So on the second appointment, when he brought back the plan to us, the financial plan, we called financial game plan, and I just thought, this is amazing. It showed us a couple of things that just our goals. We talked about, wanting to kind of go on holiday, in the next 5 years, how we can actually plan for that goal by kind of doing kind of clever, just really planning. Because, with every goal that we have, if you want to buy a house, you have this goal in your head, oh, I'm going to buy a house in Surrey in 10 years' time or 5 years' time. But, how many people really have a really set plan, how much they need to pay each month down towards that, are realistic about when it's going to happen. So we were able to kind of really see about 3 or 4 goals, when we would be able to achieve them. And if we did certain things, how we could achieve them quicker. So, and just various things. So I really thought the plan was so useful. It was kind of really showed us how to get from where we are now to where we'd like to be with our finances, kind of retirement and lots of different things. So I thought it was amazing. And then the trainer was then talking about how, well, actually, to achieve these goals, we could even come and find out more about the company. So I then, went along to a presentation, kind of asked my brother-in-law, where is it being held? He didn't get back to me. And I said, look, we want to find out about where this is being held, this presentation, and to find out more about the business. And I found out, went along, it was in Oxford Circus area. And then I just really listened to what the CEO of the company said. And he just said some really amazing and truthful and honest things. Don't give up your day job, kind of like let your daytime job pay for your bills, and let your business or self-employed work pay for your future. Just so many really useful and honest, genuine concepts that I really thought were great. and I signed up there and then the rest is history.
Amazing. And more than 10 years later, ta-da!
Yeah,
A financial educator. What I love the journey, what I love as well is that he came over to you on a Friday night.
Yes, yes.
Like Friday night, really, to be there talking about finances.
Yes.
But it is such an important topic because finances and mismanagement of finances as well can cause so much stress on people, so much stress on relationships too.
Absolutely.
The number of clients who I work with who, one of the core issues that they're experiencing is financial stress or financial difficulties, which is impacting on their ability to communicate and to express love because of it all. It's a huge part. And I say it's such a shame that this financial education isn't taught in school.
Absolutely.
And for me personally, algebra is not serving me right now.
Exactly.
It's really not serving me. So why? I mean, would you have any sort of feelings as to why it's not taught in school? What is it about it?
I mean, it's almost a bit like, it's like there's certain things that are life skills. So, for example, when if you have children, we're not given a manual on how to look after your child. You get married, you're not given a manual on how to be, a great wife or a great husband. So I see it a little bit like that, whereby it's one of those life skills that is just not being incorporated into the school, the education curriculum. So it's something that, of course, the government, has just decided that, well, actually, you go to school and you learn how to prepare yourself for the world of work. But what they're not doing is preparing us for the world of money. Because one of the things that, is very apparent now, if you get 10 people or even 100 people, how many of those people don't use money? But I don't know if there'll be anybody. I mean, even the young child, goes to speech after school, uses money.
Of course.
So for me, it's such a, as you rightly said, Teresha, it's a situation whereby, why are we not being prepared, on how to, not just use money, but how to really kind of better ourselves in the future. So as to why, I can only think it's because it's a sensible life skill that has just not been thought about enough, just like the other things I mentioned, having children and getting married and so on. And it's just that is really what it is. But now, I mean, as we know, the government there's more and more schools that are incorporating financial education somewhere into the curriculum, sometimes in the life studies class, even certain money experts have kind of gone into schools and delivered, a certain amount of money financial education books, but it's still not something that's, that's there across the curriculum. And of course it should be, because it will save a whole nation of people becoming debt ridden. And as we know, obviously going on to a different topic completely here, but it was related, but debt is obviously kind of huge impact on people's lives, quite detrimental. So
Absolutely. And when you think about some of the social pressures that you get from things that you see on social media, especially from a young age, people are wearing designer this, and have the car and they're showing a lifestyle of luxury. I can see how that could lead to mismanagement of finances and money, because it can be relatively easy to attract money through credit cards, take out loans, and you're not looking at details. I mean, I'm not a financial expert at all, but simple things about, APR, all of those kind of things. You just go for something that's readily available.
Absolutely.
Long term.
Definitely. I mean, as you rightly said, for teenagers as well, that age, very impressionable. So if, for example, you see these things being taunted on social media, this musician's got the latest, trainers, or this, has got this latest car. It's a bit like, that's kind of what some of the teenagers want. They want that, and they want it quick. They want it now. Fortunately, we live in a society that, people call microwave society. Children do want things sometimes now. My children come into the kitchen and, I say, do you want some toast or something like that? If it's lunchtime or whatever, and they're like, oh, how long is it going to take? And I'm like, seriously, how long is it going to take? It's going to take as long as it takes. 2 minutes. It's like, oh, I'll put it in the microwave sometimes. They've not bread. I'm not saying they make toast in the microwave. It's just some simple things that they, So in terms of understanding money, wouldn't it be great if you as a child, going to school, and from the age of 5 really, because again, the 5-year-old goes into the supermarket, this with, you know, his or her mum and said, "Mum, I want that, I want that." I've heard it, you know, many times. And the mum's saying, you know, well, I haven't got it, you know, right now. So,
Yeah.
you know, children obviously need to understand the importance, of course, of needs and wants. And, you know, money plays a big part in that. So why not educate children from a young age? And luckily there are, you know, on the internet, and even the company that I'm with, you know, we do actually, you know, have a number of resources, and it's something we're going into to educate young people about money, you know, from a young age. And obviously, you know, for students when they get to university, you know, you know, where it's being taught about how to manage their money well, so that they don't get into this whole credit cards and debt situation, because, you know, some of them it's very attractive, you know, oh yeah, I can, and also it's for catalogs as well.
Yeah.
A lot of it, you know, a lot of companies now that allow you to buy something and you can pay it off over 6 months in installments. You know, so it's kind of, yeah, it's a situation whereby a world we live in whereby money is the importance of understanding how money works and how to work your money. Financial education concepts, you know, is actually, you know, the need for it is really huge.
Okay, so can you tell us more about the financial concepts and financial education concepts that you teach your clients then?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So one of them is called the Rule of 72, and it's an old banking principle that, you know, if you Google it, you can, you know, read up all about the Rule of 72, and it tells you, you know, how your money doubles at a particular, particular interest rate. So right now, for example, in the bank, we are going to get looking like, you know, 0.1%, you know, 1% and things like that. So the Rule of 72 shows you that if you actually put the interest rate into the number 72, okay, it will tell you how many years it will take for your money to double at that interest rate. Yeah. So our presentation in the slide format, we will show the client that, okay, so if you had your money in the bank at 3%, this is how long it's going to take for your £1,000 to become £2,000.
Okay.
And if you have it at a rate of 6%. And then we're also able to show the client as well is the other way around, whereby if, for example, you are now, so rather than you having your money in the bank where you're saving, like, you know, what about when you are borrowing? So when you're borrowing on a credit card, that's going to kind of cost you 24%. You know, how much money are you really paying over the lifetime of that debt? So the Rule of 72 is as I said, it's an old banking principle, and it used to be used by the banks to show for them to see how much money they can make from people. Yeah,
that's
one
such
of them.
An interesting concept. The thing that kind of jumped out at me there is that I think most people, or many people, might be more interested in, you know, how their money can double, growth, but when it comes to knowing about borrowing money and what that looks like, it's kind of like, no, I'm not too fussed about that, but what about the growth? So I love that. I love that rule. So
I mean, to be very honest, you know, for people, I mean, every client we see is different. You know, some have no debt, some have lots of debt, and there's no judgment here. You know, we're not, you know, we make our clients feel comfortable. If they have got £50,000 worth of debt, well, hold on, you've got £50,000 worth of debt, and what are we going to do about it? So for them, they have, I mean, we have clients who, you know, they're like, maybe they wake up every day and think, oh my God, I've got so much debt, what am I going to do? So for some, we're like a bit like, you know, guardian angels kind of come along and said, hold on, you've got £50,000 worth of debt, but we're going to show you a concept called debt stacking and show you how you can actually come out of debt quicker than you actually have ever imagined. Yeah, and for them, that's a complete eye-opener. They are just in awe, and they see it. Sorry, on the second appointment we have a client, they see it in the financial plan, and it's their personalised complementary financial plan. They can actually see, you know, how they're going to be able to pay off that debt quicker. It's not kind of airy-fairy. It's not, okay, you know, maybe in X amount of years, you know, obviously due to inflation and interest rates, you know, we kind of can't say spot on, you know, this date, this, you know, there may be some changes, but, you know, if clients thinking they're going to come out of debt in, say 20 years or whatever, no, we can show you probably how you can come out of debt in 4 or 5 years. Yeah, so that's actually another concept.
I like that you give that plan, because a lot of the stress that we can feel is because it's intangible and it's all up in our head and we're trying to figure it out. But with the plan, it's tangible and you can sit down and see something. And I think that can really help people to feel more comfortable or in a better place.
Yeah,
you can actually see it written down.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I mentioned about my brother-in-law and his trainer coming around the house. That was obviously that was pre-COVID times.
Yeah.
Now the beauty, I mean, I can't say beauty, because obviously COVID, no one, COVID is not a positive thing, but obviously, as we know, a lot of businesses have pivoted and turned around and just kind of really done things differently. So that's myself as a financial educator, we now do appointments completely online. So there's no aspect of business where we need to kind of physically go anywhere. So the clients will come on Zoom, and when they get their plan, it's actually a plan online. But the great news is that they can actually access their plan themselves as well. So before COVID times, face-to-face appointments in the home, seeing a client, sitting down around their kitchen table, very nice rapport you can build up, so it was actually fun. And that's how the business worked. And then the second appointment, they would get their physical plan in a nice kind of folder that they can kind of keep, and look at, and plan their life with their other half. Or we see that you don't have to be part of a couple. That is our target audience. But if you're single, then you can see how you can plan your life. So but now we able to do it all completely online, and the client can access their plan online. So.
That's great. It's all convenient as well for people, and a lot of people now are more comfortable to Zoom calls and video calls.
Absolutely.
As well. So that's great. So are they the key financial concepts that you?
Yeah, I mean, we have several. I mean, they apply to people in different situations. So if you've got a mortgage, there's one called mortgage acceleration. These are things that your listeners might be interested in hearing more about.
I'm listening.
Hopefully we can sort of explain to people how they can perhaps even have a financial plan if that's of interest to them. But I mean, it's paying off your mortgage quicker. Some people actually, a lot of people know that you can pay your mortgage off quicker by adding, extra money each month. That's not groundbreaking, I'm not gonna claim that one and say that's amazing news. But there's something called mortgage acceleration or fortnightly payments, and we teach people that concept so people can actually see. But if they were to pay the same amount of money every single month, which is about how they pay it, then they can actually cut off about 5 to 8 years off their mortgage. Same amount of money, just paid differently within each month. That's another concept.
That's so good. Me and you will talk offline about that one.
Absolutely.
So interesting. So that's lovely. That's a lovely share. So for everybody who is listening, of course, there are some many financial concepts there that might be blowing your mind at the moment, thinking, I didn't know about this. But this is the great thing about having this discussion, is to know that whatever, and as Colette said, with no judgment whatsoever, whatever your financial situation is, it's about having that conversation. Because we can sit there feeling very stressed and not very hopeful about the future. And it just takes a simple conversation just to understand more about where you are to where you want to get to as well. And something you mentioned as part of your journey was how when you sat down with your brother-in-law, it was like you sat down and you focused on only a few goals. It wasn't like loads and loads of financial goals, like, so where would you like to go on holiday, those kind of things as well. And perhaps that's quite important when it comes to financial goals, is that you start small. Perhaps you don't try to incorporate so many goals. It's like, so what's the most important ones to you?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Teresha, because you might even have a lot of the clients sometimes when we're asking the question, so what kind of goals that you'd like to achieve in the next 5 years, 10 years, etc. We're asking both, if it's the couple, husband and wife, and for sometimes they've actually not even talked about their goals. So this is like actually a great opportunity for them to really listen. And sometimes it's very interesting because, wife will share something and be like, I've never heard you say that before.
Wow.
Now.
Exactly. Lovely.
So sometimes, of course, there's different goals, So, but and you can and you should have, your joint goals if you are part of a partnership, married or living with someone, and also, having your own individual goals as well. But in terms of like picking out kind of key goals, and that, as you rightly said, you're not having to be like necessarily a lot of goals or huge goals. It can be something as small as an emergency fund. That's a goal. If you haven't got an emergency fund in place, why not start off with that as one of your goals? Because as we know, if the boy, typical words, but boiler breaks down, or you need to kind of go see a relative abroad, sick relative or something like that. Have you got that £1,000 that you can draw on? That's just sitting there just for emergencies. So we even say that it doesn't have to be necessarily a physical thing like a house, or even an experience like a holiday. It could be a monetary goal like an emergency fund. So it's really, as you said, Trish, just honing in on the goals that are important to you, as a couple, if you are part of a couple, and just really making those goals, it being a SMART goal. And the great thing is that the plan allows it to be a SMART goal. So if you said, I want to buy a house in the Caribbean, and we say, okay, when would you like to achieve that? It's one of the questions we ask. We do a little bit of kind of coaching, a little bit of kind of trying to find out, how realistic is this goal? And we say, oh, I'd love to kind of buy this house in 2 years' time. Okay, so what do you have right now? Okay, nothing. Okay, so yeah, so we're not trying to kind of kill your dream, but what we are doing is trying to kind of give you a stretch, trying to make sure we call it a stretchingly realistic goal.
Okay.
So we kind of like, we try to kind of coach you to kind of say, okay, well, maybe 5 years. Okay, so what are you going to do about that? You want to achieve this goal in 5 years. So what have you got in place to help you achieve it in 5 years? Nothing. Each month I kind of like really don't have any money left over each month. Okay, so then we're kind of able to sort of like really also just kind of guide them. And then if it is that they need a second income, then the company I'm with, we do provide that as actually an opportunity, a second income opportunity. Come along and find out more about the business, just exactly how I did. However, we are 100% not saying you have to come and work with us. What we are saying as well is, you need a second income. You need some more money if you're going to achieve this house in the Caribbean. So therefore, it could be a business, could be a second job, or whatever it is. So just about it's about allowing the client to actually see, to really kind of just really hone in and be realistic about what they are looking to achieve their goals. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. It's giving them the opportunity to see the many options that you're not aware of. If you're not in the financial industry and you're not aware of this, then you're just going to have a very limited understanding of what you can do, or perhaps how you can shift yourself closer to your goal.
Yeah.
And there's this fantastic quote, which is, a goal without a plan is just a wish.
Absolutely. That's it.
When you have that plan in place, and it's something that you can be realistic about as well, and it's a SMART goal that you have set, it can make you feel better towards it. Because sometimes I think that we don't actually start working on our goals because it's not realistic, and we think, oh yeah, I'd love to buy my house in 2 years' time, but deep down you don't think it's realistic, so you don't start.
Very true, Teresha. Yeah, you are absolutely right. That makes complete sense, because it's, as you said, it's actually a wish, it's a dream.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh yeah, I really would like to do it, but you kind of, it's almost a bit like the subconscious is saying to you, well, this is not really realistic because you haven't even got any money right now to actually save that goal. So as you rightly said, you don't even start working on it. But again, yes, the plan just shows you what's realistic, and it shows you how quickly, what the beauty of it as well, it shows you how much quicker you will achieve it if you were to add extra money on top of that £100 a month you're saying that you've got currently to put toward that goal, if you've got that money. So, and it's there's no judgment. If you have zero for that goal right now, and you have no means of actually adding any more, then that's just the reality. Maybe that house goal, that dream house that you want in 5 years' time, well, maybe it might be 8 years' time or 10 years' time. And of course, it's not set in stone. There's no one's going to come on, kind of give you tap you over the head and say, you really have not achieved your goal. That's for you to kind of really see what's achievable.
Yeah, and that's great because it gives you accountability for that as well, which is fantastic. Once you are empowered with knowledge, they say knowledge is power. But I always say what you do with that knowledge is powerful.
Very true. I like that.
You've received the information. Now, what are you going to do about it? And that's where fantastic financial educators such as yourself can help them.
Yeah.
I'm quite keen because I know I've got many of my myths about finances and education. And I just wondered, are there any that you've come across, any misconceptions or myths that people have about finances or managing finances at all?
So one of them is that a lot of people, we kind of tend to think, well, I can do this next week or next year. I can start saving. I'm going to buy these things. I'm going to do some online shopping and buy what I want this year, and then I'm going to start working on kind of being a bit more sensible and, sort of kind of saving my money, yes, I said from next year or so. So I would say that a misconception is that it doesn't, for some people, is that it doesn't actually matter when you start. That's actually so untrue, because in a way, it's better to start than not to start, whatever age you are. So, if you're 60 years old and you haven't started and saving or investing, it's still not too late to start. However, I would say I feel like it's a myth that, as I said, it's, that you can start any time and it's okay, because what it is you're actually doing, the power of compound interest is not working for you if you start any time. So there's something called the high cost of waiting, which means that if you start like an 18-year-old started planning now and started putting aside X amount of pounds, every month, be £500 or so, their retirement pot is going to be so much greater than if they start that even 3 years later.
Very
so
true.
A misconception is that it's okay to start in a couple of years' time. And like I said, it's a bit confusing one, because it is better if you start anytime, but you also want to start now if you can.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a huge myth as well. I say, some progress is better than no progress.
Yeah, exactly. And another one is that, the more money I make means the more money that I'm going to have for my future. So, if I see a job and it's like 60 grand and I see a job that's 40 grand, well, out of those two, then I should definitely kind of take the 60 grand one, because, it's more money and I'm therefore going to be richer later on. Well, that's actually a myth. I'm not saying not to go for the high income one if that's what the job that you really love, but you could also even go for the £40,000 one if that's one that fits better, for you. If this thing that's in that one better than the other one, because the saying goes is that it's not what you earn, it's what you keep that counts. So that's why you'll hear of the top banker in the city, someone working in the financial industry, who's earning maybe £300,000 a year. But you'll read headlines, with loads of articles you read in the newspapers that will say this person's been made bankrupt. It could be even somebody a millionaire. It could be even somebody who's got more money. Yeah. But what it is, some people are thinking, well, how can somebody who's earning that, be made bankrupt? What's happened? And that's because what they've done, been making lots of money, but they've been spending lots of money as well. And of course, what we don't know is that how many credit cards and loans have they got that they were spending out each month. If you've got a lot, of credit cards and loans, you're paying a good chunk of money every single month. I once saw a client many years ago, and he's probably the client who's had the most debt, and he had a single man, and it's like mid-50s, and he had over £100,000 worth of debt. So if you have a lot of debt, you will be, kind of pretty much having to kind of pay that. So that is just another myth that it's not what you, as the saying goes, it's what you keep that counts, not what you earn.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like they say that saying, more money, more problems.
Yeah.
Sometimes can come along with it, because sometimes we create our own problems. We get that salary increase, or we get that bonus, or we get this and we get that extra bit of income that maybe we're not even expected. Then you go out and you kind of overspend, and then you sit back and you think, oh gosh, the accounts aren't looking very good this month. Kind of thing. What does this mean for my life? So I can completely see why that would be another misconception or myth about it.
This
is where money management and money mindset is so important to have, and so that we make responsible decisions when it comes to our money and our finances, whether that's our spending habits or whether that's the way that we invest as well, the way that we manage our debts as well, our credit. So, and this is why it's fantastic that you are here to educate people, because it's so needed.
Yes, sure. And just to say as well, because some people might be thinking, well, what's the difference between like what I do as a financial educator compared to a financial advisor? And there is a very key difference. So what we're not doing is that I'm not advising you. I'm actually not saying to you, oh, this is the best stocks and shares to go with this month, or this is the best bank account. We're very clear, role that I have, the company that is regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, we don't advise you, so we educate. Yeah. And why we see that as important, and we're not, of course, sometimes in your life, you might need a financial advisor to advise you on various, products and so on. But what we do within our business, in addition to, the kind of great work of financially educating you and doing a financial plan for you, but what we are really saying is that we want you to kind of we want you to be kind of clued up in some of the kind of key concepts of that. If you were to see a financial advisor, you kind of know what you're doing a little bit more. So it's almost like, rather than a financial advisor saying, okay, this life insurance, we think this one's good for you, and you're just taking it all in, because it's not an area that you've studied. It's not your area of expertise. So you'll lean on a financial advisor to tell you various things.
Yes.
Well, I think you should take this particular policy because it will protect you in the event of sickness and so forth and so forth. But if you're not clued up on, well, there's this life insurance policy, there's this accident and sickness one, what's the difference between these two? Because this is why when we see clients who actually have policies, they don't actually know what they've got.
Yeah.
And that's because they weren't educated on it. The financial advisor didn't say, you're taking out this, but it means X, Y, Z, but it doesn't cover you for X, Y, Z. You have no idea because you just listened to what the financial advisor said and you took what they said. So all we're doing with the financial education, and I say all because it's not really all, because it's a huge thing we're doing. We're kind of educating you to have some clarity on various, well, it could be product, services, various, I say concepts that will enable you to understand what you're doing in the area of finances as best as possible.
Oh, wow. I think that's absolutely amazing, because yes, there's one thing to get advice, and it's the education piece. It's like that fisherman kind of analogy. They say, you can give a person the fish, or you can give them the fishing rod. So it's almost like, you are giving them the fishing rod in order to be able to educate themselves so that they can go and get the fish themselves.
Fantastic. Well, absolutely. Love that analogy, Teresha. Yeah, I love that.
Giving them the fish. And I hope that makes sense. And I probably paraphrase that so completely.
No, it makes absolute sense.
Wow. No, that has been such a useful part of this discussion, because as I said, this show is about helping people to grow, to thrive, and to be empowered in all aspects of their life. And finances and money is something that is a huge part of our life, and we need to be very comfortable about it, educate ourselves in it, and know how to use it to our benefit as well, because it's a currency that we are using, so let's use it well.
Absolutely, Teresha.
Thank you so much for that share. And as I said at the start of our conversation, it's about love. It's about relationships too. So I am now going to move the conversation into love, dating, relationships. Are you ready, Colette?
I am indeed. I'm getting ready. I'm going to hold on to my chair.
Okay. So let's do this. Colette, now, reflecting back on some of your key experiences that you've had with your romantic relationships, current and present, how would you describe those experiences?
So I would say that I describe them as, it's going to sound quite strange, but that opportunities in which they allowed me to become who I am today, and along the journey learn a lot about myself, learn a lot about love, and about relationships, and really just embrace what life is about. So I would say that I've had some interesting relationships and interesting experiences, and I think for every single one, whether it's like a kind of a date or a relationship that's longer, could be 2-year relationship, and right now I'm married almost 20 years. So I'd say different kind of experiences, but I think it's a matter of really just kind of picking out different experiences and allowing them to using them, as I said, to kind of like really benefit myself and understand as much as I can what love and marriage and relationships are all about.
Okay, so what are some of the things that you have picked out during those experiences then?
So one of the things I'd say is that we all, how to put it, we all, as individuals, we all have our different likes and dislikes, and things that kind of irritate us and things that don't irritate us, and so on. And I think one of the things that we have to look at is that when you come together with somebody else, there is compromise in that has to happen. You're not going to get everything that you personally want because that person isn't you. So this is where, I think relationships are a difficult area. So, well done to someone like yourself, Teresha, who's operating that area as a relationship master coach, because it's not an easy area at all. Because, when you come into this world, we came in as single, tiny, human beings with our own makeup, our own sort of thoughts and so forth. And as we those thoughts, of course, grow and grow as we go and get older. So you're going to have experiences in life that are going to make you sort of say, well, I don't like this and don't like that. But then the person that you meet, whether it's a dating situation or it's a person that becomes your partner for 1 year or 5 years or longer, but you're going to kind of come together and you're going to have to kind of really almost like kind of balance your life and balance your needs and your wants and your likes with that person. So I, without a doubt, personally can see why, the whole relationship game is quite tricky, and how, obviously, there's a lot of marriages that end in divorce and so on. But yeah, I think it's a kind of, situation whereby it's just, it's a kind of, it's an interesting situation.
It is. And some of the words that you've used there, which are very important, is words such as compromise and balance and likes, dislikes. And as we grow into the relationship as well, those things will change because we're growing as a person, we're evolving. So something that we really liked when we first met our partner, we may not like anymore. Something within ourselves, it could even be something within them. And it's absolutely okay. As long as you communicate with
absolutely
partner, isn't it? It's like, that's the key thing. Is there something that doesn't feel right anymore, or a behavior that isn't sitting comfortably with you? Is that communication? Is it something you can live with and tolerate? If it's not, then it's having that comfortable communication with your partner, just to explain some of the differences or feelings that you might be having.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times as well, as you said, communication is key, as we know, and it's key in lots of different areas of our life, of course, not just relationships, but lots of times I think what happens with us as individuals when we're in relationships, we tend to think, well, actually, I'm right about that. I know I'm right. So, I'm not even going to argue. I'm not even going to, kind of really try and understand the other person, because in your mind, you've said that you're right. Now, here's what, you probably are right for you. You're right in mine.
I'm always winning.
You're right in your world, and and I'm guilty of this too. And if you're, a lot of women, and obviously the show, I'm sure it's that your listeners are men and women, I'm sure. But I think a lot of women, we are the characters that we are, and we've kind of become quite sort of strong-minded, and not saying at all that our sort of mothers, grandmothers, are not. But obviously there's a whole change in society of the independent woman and so on, the woman that will kind of be quite firm in what she wants and firm in her opinions, and sometimes it's not always the best, but sometimes we are not able to step back and say, well, actually, you know what, I'm able to see your point of view as well, even if I don't agree with it, and that's how you see it, and let's kind of like pause on that. Of course, some couples and probably great at doing that. But I think there's a lot that, we just, I don't know, I think it's just how we are as individuals. We just want to kind of make sure know that, no, we are right, so no, I'm right in that. So, and so that's kind of where you can have the sort of challenges, of course.
Definitely.
Communication is definitely,
it's huge. And what you're saying there about being right, when I feel, I think about it and I speak to people, I say, no, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? And there's a difference between the two, because sometimes if we just are really adamant about being right, deep down we're actually not happy about the solution to whatever we've been going through anyway, but we just want it to be right. But what is actually going to truly make you happy is, okay, some people might argue being right makes me happy. No, let's really think about this. Are you truly going to be happy if you and your partner have come to a situation where sometimes you can have compromise? But I always say that a much stronger position to get to is cooperation, where you are, because compromise often means that somebody is sacrificing something in order to compromise, whether it's both people or whether it's one person. You compromise, it almost feels like somebody in a way has lost out, or both parties have. But if you can cooperate and you can find a way to make that work together, it's more of a win-win situation. So again, there's a lot of compromise when it comes to relationships, and then there's cooperation where you can cooperate and be more united in that.
I like that. That's fantastic. I really like that, Teresha.
It's about striking that balance, isn't it? When it comes to relationships, what works and what doesn't work, and then actually being very honest with each other about what is working and what isn't working. And you know, go ahead.
No, I was just saying definitely. And I think that, you know, we're all on a, I believe, you know, I'm very into personal development and self-growth, and I think we're all on that sort of journey. And sometimes, you know, you need to, you know, have that kind of pause in the relationship, you know, kind of game to even kind of find out more about yourself and find out what you want from a relationship before you enter the next relationship, you know. And this is something, you know, that happened with myself, you know, when I was in between, you know, a relationship whereby, you know, I was kind of single for, you know, say maybe about a year. And I know that that's not a long time. I'm not saying it is, but you know, in my younger years, you know
what I say? It's not about the time, it's what you do in that time.
Very, very, very true. But you know, within that year, and it was just a year, but I actually remember kind of getting to, I think it was like a moment of self-realization that actually, you know what, I'm fine, like as in, you know, so you know, a relationship had sort of ended and I was fine about where I was in life. I was quite happy with where I was. You know, that's when I was working editor at the newspaper, and I just, you know, bought a house. So I was kind of pretty much and I wasn't like, oh, I've made it, I'm happy, I don't need a man. It wasn't that. It was just that I was actually comfortable with myself. And I knew that I felt that when a relationship came along, I felt that I would actually be able to approach it in a way whereby, okay, quite soon after, you know, perhaps dating the person, I would kind of know whether that's somebody who I wanted to spend more time with, the view to that person possibly, you know, being, you know, the right or not. And that is actually what happened. It was almost like and I didn't set out on a journey of, right, okay, I'm now going to do this and I'm now going to do that. Okay, you know what? Okay, so when someone comes along, I'm going to make sure that that person that I know within, I didn't say that consciously. I think it was more of a sort of subconscious thing I kind of was doing. So for the year, I just, you know, enjoyed life and so on, and, you know, going out. And yes, of course, you know, when you're in between relationships, you know, or when you have had a relationship last for, you know, a few years or so, you don't necessarily say, oh, I have to go back to one straight away. But my point here really is that, you know, if you are single, that, you know, it's okay to be single. And it's, you know, and I know somebody might say, well, actually, I'll be single for 5 years and I'm in my, you know, like mid-40s, so you say it's okay to be single. What it is unfortunate, life throws us at different things, and you know, we never know. You're not born knowing if you're going to be married at this age or that age or whatever. All I'm saying is that while you are in the phase situation that you are in, to embrace that, find out more about yourself, learn about what you want, enjoy life, you know, go out. There are things that, you know, as a single person that you can do that you may not saying you can't do if you're with married, you know, for example, you know, if you want to go out every single Saturday for a year, you know, you've got no one saying to you, well, I don't think you're going out too much. But just back to kind of like self-realization. But so I kind of really used that year, and I was really comfortable with where I was. And so when I did meet somebody at, you know, some point afterwards, I was in a kind of place whereby I kind of almost knew that I knew what I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want really, but not a tick box. It wasn't like, well, I've got to have, you know, a car, this kind of amazing car, and I've got to have money. Like, it was more like kind of about qualities of the person.
And that's a really great learning, because singlehood is, you can actually really use that as your tool of enlightenment. I like to use that phrase, because there's so much growth and so much realizations, as you said, that can come through in that. And sometimes we're not single out of choice. It may have been a really devastating breakup that we've had, and you're healing from that. And it's using that opportunity to heal and to do stuff within that time to get yourself into a better feeling state, to review, take stock on where you are in life, set some smart goals, and just live and do your best to be happy, to thrive, to experience the world and situations and people during that time, like what you did. I mean, you bought yourself a home, you were happy, you were living, but it also gave you clarity on the qualities that you would like from your next partner. when that partnership came for you.
Mm.
So tell me a bit about, did you meet your next partner very organically, or how did that situation come about? Was it just you walked past each other on the street and it was like eye contact and you were together?
No, so what happened is so when I was working at the newspaper, and then there was we kind of used to do, they just do like events and various things, but then one of a lady who I kind of in regular contact with, she was going to be speaking at an event that we both knew about. So I was kind of like going there for the paper, and she was kind of going like really for herself. She was actually one of the speakers. So she sort of did her talk, and I finished work. Working at Elephant Castle, I finished work at the time, and then I went when I got there, she was already on the stage speaking, so I kind of stayed towards the back. So apparently my now husband, he was sitting at the back with a friend. So I kind of apparently, kind of spotted when I came in, and there was a bit of a kind of moment because I'd taken someone's chair. A lady who was she had gone to the bathroom, so I happened to come through the door and see an empty chair. So I sat on her chair. So apparently his friend was like, "Oh, let's see how this is going to go," kind of thing. So after the talk finished, and so he had gone there to listen to another somebody he knew. She was the other speaker. So they went on. Him and his friend went on the stage. So as him and his friend went to speak to the person they know, that same person they know said to my husband now said to him, "Oh, I'm going to meet my friend Colette. She is editor of this newspaper." Now, this is a newspaper that my husband had known about from his years of kind of growing up in the Caribbean. So he was like, "Really?" So he thought it was an older person, because I was in my late 20s. He thought it was a much older person who was the editor. He was quite shocked. So we just kind of got talking. And then he said to me, I think he said as we were talking, he was thinking to himself, actually, kind of something about her that I kind of quite like. So he said to me, I think he said on the spot, he said something like, "Oh, the newspaper doesn't have many restaurant reviews, does it?"
Ooh, I like that sliding in there. Ooh, that nice little indirect question.
Yeah. And in fact, just prior to that, he'd been kind of like literally telling me all the things that was wrong in the newspaper. So I was like, that didn't happen. I said, okay, fair enough, but that's because that's from a different office, which was right. So I was defending the newspaper, and I was defending the fact that I agree with you, but that wasn't my fault. He was just saying what's wrong. But of course I was defending.
Well, he wasn't scoring any brownie points with that, was he?
Very true, very true. That was his conversation. So then he said about the restaurant reviews, and I said, yeah, we have a few. And he goes, okay. He goes, there's one that I think you might maybe should review for the newspaper. So got talking, and then exchanged. I think he gave me his number. I didn't call for a few days, or I think he called me. I can't quite remember actually. But and then we ended up kind of going to this. Yeah, so it was a real thing. He was inviting me to this restaurant, but yeah, obviously there was some kind of let me sort of checking her out kind of thing going on. So yeah, that's what happened. That was our sort of first date at a restaurant I went to for the restaurant review. Didn't end up doing a review.
So you went and you had your first date. So first date at the restaurant and so forth. And you were probably really super clear because you had done your inner work and your growth during that singlehood period of the year. Well, as we said before, it's not about the time, it's what you do within that time. Yeah. So you were absolutely clear on the qualities. Was he able to demonstrate that to you during that first date at all?
Yeah. And he was. And I was kind of quite, as you touched on, I was kind of quite early on able to really assess that this is somebody that I think is worth finding out more about, and sort of perhaps going on another date or two or three or so with so I'd say pretty much early on. And I think one of the things that I did, which he has always talked about, and I think he talked about it at our wedding as well, is that on that first date I definitely didn't do this intentionally, so it's kind of really weird how the kind of the subconscious kind of kicks in and makes you do as they makes obviously it's not my fault. Makes you do certain things that you don't necessarily intend it. So I never intended to go on that date and with a list of questions. I mean, I didn't have a physical list, and I didn't even have a list of questions in my head. I honestly didn't. But apparently, and I only found out this out months later, when he said to me, you know that on our second date I had to come with a list of questions. I prepared some questions for you because there was no way that I was letting you get away with bombarding me with the amount of questions that you did, firing it off the questions left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
I did that. He goes, you did. And when I thought about it, I thought, yeah, he's right. But I guess what it is as a journalist, I have a way, and I even up to this day, if I go and buy a Hoover, I do after a little while say to the person, just to let you know, I'm not interviewing you.
Yeah.
I'm really not. I just have a list of questions, but I realise that I ask questions in a very, kind of quick way, and then sometimes it could make the person feel a little bit, kind of like
spectacle in.
yeah.
Get a hit in here.
So he said to me that you literally fired off question after question after question, and there were things such as and I had it's quite a funny little story, but he just made it clear to me that I would literally ask him questions that made him know that I was quite serious, that if he was going to be messing about, I wasn't interested in even going on the second day. So the questions were things like, like, do you have children? When was your last relationship? How long was that relationship for? Kind of things. Just things about himself, about his family. But I think it was just it was almost a bit like he probably felt like it was like kind of question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. It probably wasn't a conversation.
You know what image just came to my head? Mastermind. Do you know? And he's in his chair with this light on him, just being grilled. So like, but
exactly.
I can understand, because some people, you have differences of opinions when it comes to questions and what you say on the first date or your first couple of dates.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because we are enlisting somebody into our life. It's going to hold such a significant part. So it's important that we assess their suitability for that role. And of course, like you said, you didn't go in there with your list of questions, just writing and ticking it all off. Stuff that was important for you and to discuss from the get-go, so that you know exactly if this person could be a match for you. Other than wasting your time and his time by having all of these dates that really you find out later down the line that you're not necessarily compatible with each other. And I think it's to assess that compatibility as soon as you possibly can.
That's right, absolutely. And I think it might depend on what age you are, and it might depend on, well, let's say age and number. So it kind of, along with the age, because I was in my late 20s, so it may well have been also the kind of various experiences that you've had before with other guys or so relationships. So in a way, I probably again I say subconsciously, something was kind of making me say, well, actually, that you don't want to be wasting time with this date, that day. Dates are nice, but kind of not in your early 20s and not in your 20s. Of course, without a doubt, no matter what age you are, I think it's a very, of course, important. The only way you're going to find out a person is by dating. And without a doubt, we had dates 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. But what I meant is that just kind of like spending too much time, investing too much time in that person. Sometimes you kind of, you probably can. Sometimes you have a vibe. I think that Teresa, and as a relationship coach, you probably will know this better than anyone else. That my thoughts are that sometimes women may spend, pretty women and men, but spend too much time in a negative relationship that they kind of know is negative from quite early on, but they just haven't pulled themselves out of it because of fear of being single, fear of what will people say, fear of you're on my own, and fear of obviously enjoying some of that relationship, and perhaps some of it is great, but in terms of what to remember, it's a bit like a business. If you're running a business and that business is not going great, at some point you've got to make some decisions, haven't you? It's the same thing, and it's even probably more so important because things that especially like for women, in terms of children, if you're a certain age and you haven't had children yet, and you are investing time in a relationship that's going nowhere, in a way, I think it's a bit like cost opportunities. You're kind of like that time that you've been investing in person A, means that you're not leaving time for to find, not leaving time to find person B. You're too wrapped up in person A. But it's not going anywhere, and you kind of know that. So, I'm not, relationship coaching. It's not my job to tell, anyone. I don't tell friends, what to do. In fact, I'm very conscious, about telling friends what to do with their relationships. And what I mean by that is, because you have friends that kind of come to you for advice or say, what do you think? and sometimes, even volunteering information. I know we had a conversation the other day about freely volunteering information. So, sometimes you're not asked, but sometimes, because you want the best for your friends, you'll give your opinion. But, and I know, slightly different conversation, but, I've been very cautious about doing that, because one of the things sometimes my mum said to me, remember, she said to me one day, Colette, I'm very wary of telling a friend what to do with their relationship, because they will turn around and say to you, look, you're still with your husband, Colette, but you said to me that, my husband wasn't good. And I agreed with that, because all my other friends said that as well. So I decided to kind of leave him. But yeah, you're still with yours, aren't you? And
that's all good for you now.
Yeah, and I've always maintained that. Even a friend of mine who was going through a divorce, I didn't actually tell her what I told her my views. But and even when she said, what do you do? I said, it's not really about what I would do, it's about what you want to do.
Absolutely. And our friends will often come to us for guidance, for advice. Sometimes it's just to be a listening ear, and we can always share that if they're open to hearing our opinions. But it's important for them to make a decision based upon how they feel. And you're absolutely right. There's so many reasons why people stay in relationships, such as fear of loneliness, fear of the future, what would it mean, all of these kind of fears that crop up. And it's so important to follow that intuition and to be aware of any of those red flags that may be appearing in a relationship, so that you both can be in a relationship where you're both happy, and so that
definitely
you can make decisions that serve you and serve your future.
Definitely. And you know what I mean, I do remember when a friend was going through a kind of bit of a rough time of kind of just meeting a few different guys, and it just wasn't working out, and she was just kind of quite upset, thinking that, is it her? Why does she meet these particular guys, who are just not really giving her the time of day, and so on. And I remember at some point, and I can honestly say I didn't read this or see this or hear this from anybody, but at some point, and I guess it's on my own sort of journey, and again, it's maybe through my relationships that I had, which, and not to all say that they were negative and so on, because again, every relationship is what it is, but and I wouldn't say I've been in any sort of negative relationship at all, really, obviously ones that haven't worked out, but nothing really seriously, negative, I'd say. But I think that maybe, something to do with, I'm not sure if it's not really confidence, but just something I think it's, again, I can only put it down to that, being on that sort of journey of self growth and so on. And I remember I said, not seeing this or not hearing this from anything, thinking to myself, actually, maybe one day I heard somebody say, oh, my other half. And I remember sort of thinking one day, I said, well, actually, if you really, really break it down, why do people say my other half? Because you know what they mean. But if you've got another half, then it means that you are not whole. That's what you're kind of saying. Now, being a bit of a words person, being a journalist, I do break down words even to this day. Right now, if I'm saying something and I think it's incorrect what I've said to my son, I will sometimes actually go and look at the dictionary just to make sure that I've said, given the right interpretation or definition. I still do that to this day. But so that's why for me the word half meant half, and I was thinking, actually. And then what came into my head was a little saying, and I said, well, actually, when we're born as a whole human being. You're not half, you're not half of a body, not half of a soul, you're a whole human being. Okay, you might be a small, tiny, baby, but still a whole person. And when you go out in this world, will be a whole person. So you're not actually at any point in your life a half. So I thought, well, actually, then is this the problem with some relationships? I mean, whereby yes, consciously the person or the woman is not saying she's a half, but it's almost like see some women, maybe men too, but I don't know why, but I think it's more women that sometimes feel that they need a man to validate who they are. And I'm not at all knocking relationships, and I'm not bashing, I'm not bashing marriage or relationships. As I said, I'm sort of married for almost 20 years, so I'm not doing that at all. But what I'm saying is that a lot of women shouldn't. I don't think they should feel that they need a man to be whole or to be happy. Absolutely. If that is what they're doing. And then I kind of came up with sort of a bit of an analogy, and I sort of said, well, actually, so if you are a whole person, then it's like if you are with somebody and that person is, if they are, let's just say they're always putting you down, whether it's just your weight or just we have obviously a lot of relationships whereby the kind of, other half is kind of like, other half of the other person, I should say, is negative to his or her partner, and they're kind of chipping away at your confidence, for example. Yeah, okay. And so really, that means in my mind, how I looked at it was that hole that you are being chipped away, like kind of getting some and knocking bits of it. Okay. And I thought, well, actually, so why would you want to be with somebody that chips away at you? Then I thought, actually, it's like that if you're going to be, because you are a whole person, then it's like, the whole purpose of being in a relationship, the benefit of being in a relationship is that you put two circles that, this is you, it's your partner, and you put the two of you on top of each other, and that should strengthen the structure. But if it chips away at it, then you're better off being on your own. And that was my simple thought that I carried through for a long time. And that's what I was happy to share that with friends. And I did. I know quite a lot of friends said, you know what, actually, that makes sense. Yeah. So that's something thought I'd share.
That's a beautiful, powerful share, actually, Colette, because I can totally see what you're saying there. And when you impart that information on your friends, it's for them to take that knowledge and do what they want with it, because what you are saying there, and I am along a very similar school of thoughts in terms of that whole other half. There's even another saying, my better half.
Yeah.
Which is another one. And I can completely understand why people will say that. And there's a lot of our social conditioning and social languages, and it's just become quite normal. But you're right. We are whole. We are already complete.
Yes.
Somebody else is there to complement you.
Yeah.
And as you said, the two holes can go on top of each other.
Yeah.
And when you were talking there, it kind of reminded me like the number 8. I know the number 8 is like two circles put together, really. And then also the 8 is also the sign of the infinity symbol as well. And the infinity symbol is a symbol of endless love and connection. That's what is generally useful. So your analogy, I would say, is so trademark it. I would say it's so powerful, because again, it can be seen like the number 8 and then like the infinity endless love is there to build each other and to strengthen each other there.
Interesting. I like that. I do like that, Teresha. It's almost like that middle bit, because the edge of the number 8, it's not like it's two dead set circles. It's got that little bit in the middle that joins one circle to another. That's actually the joining of you and the other person, isn't it? And actually, if you think about it, it's kind of got the two joins, because it joins right in the middle. It does,
doesn't it? It's quite a beautiful thing to put together. The two circles, the two wholenesses coming together. So I understand that people use the other half, but again, our words are very powerful. We have to be very mindful about what we're speaking about. So when we say half, it's almost like you're incomplete. It's important, as you said, we came into the world as a whole person, a whole human being. We leave this world in the same as a whole person. And it's just using language to show that that person is, part of your situation, of the relationship, but you are your own self.
definitely. And interestingly, Teresha, when you were speaking, what I was thinking about, it's like, as we know, there's a lot of women that leave, it's back to the finances, but leave their finances to their husband or partner. But then, this is a true fact. Then when there's a breakup, then that woman's left literally in a situation of not even knowing, how to manage a bank account, and so, there's actually a kind of word for it. It's a bit like, that's the word. Sorry, the word is kind of economic abuse. I didn't even realize, there was that existed until the other day. And, the company I'm with, we actually did a event online sort of I think weekly sessions, maybe about 8 sessions in a row on different things for women to kind of learn about budgeting, saving, and so on. But it was all linked to that, all linked to economic abuse, whereby some women who they are. It's almost a bit like, sorry, you get too excited. One whereby some women are actually in a situation where they don't have any rights to the money between them and their partner, and there's another situation whereby if a woman leaves a relationship or vice versa, or the relationship breaks down, then she's actually kind of like not knowing how to handle the money herself. So basically, in both situations, my point here is that you as a woman want to kind of clued up on your money, because when it comes to that in your relationship, you kind of may find that actually you're not all, if your relationship breaks down and you have no clue about your money, then you're going to be in a sort of tough situation. So,
That's really useful. That's a very, very useful share, because an empowered feminine woman is always prepared for any eventualities. Of course, we have all of the hopes and dreams and, wanting the best intentions for our relationships as well. And we just have to make sure that we just have everything set up for ourselves, to give ourselves that peace of mind that we can handle things. And of course, anything can happen in life. Nothing is guaranteed. And it's not to say that a relationship has come into a breakdown because two people have decided. Sometimes life happens and life is taken away from us. Just making sure that we are prepared for those situations too. So in all areas, and finances being one key element of that. So that's really important to address that, actually, and make point to that. So as we pull this conversation, this delightful conversation, Colette, to a close, I would love for you to actually describe what your personal definition of love is. Do you have any thoughts on what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, love is an interesting one, because love takes different forms, and it's different to different people. And I think that, so love is a feeling, and some people love it as a decision. So for me, I think love is that kind of bond, that thing that bonds you and the other person who's part of your life. We're talking about a kind of romantic relationship, because obviously there's the stuff that you can have for your family member, your mum, your sort of siblings and so on. But yeah, in terms of a romantic relationship, so love is, I would say, the bond the special bond between you and that other person, that other special person in your life, that kind of gives you that feel-good feeling, that kind of knows that you're on the right page together, on the right path together, and that kind of is full of all the wonderful things that we would love in our lives when it comes to the subject of love.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful description. I always say that everyone's description of love, especially in a relationship and romantic context, is different. It's unique. It's personal to them. And when we can really tap into that feeling and lean into love and use that as our guiding principle, then even through the difficult times, if we can just bring it back to love, and whatever that means for you as a person, it can really help to make us feel better, or to give us some focus and some clarity. So Colette, that was a wonderful, wonderful piece of share that you gave there. So now I would love for you, I love a lot of things, it'd be wonderful if you could share with the listeners before you go, just one key message that could help them on their journey of love, life and relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, just step into the world of love, and if you are single, embrace that and love yourself. See the value in you. Know that you are a whole human being who has a lot to share, who has a lot of worth, a lot of value, in the marketplace, in the world, and everything. So it's almost a bit like kind of use that time to focus on you, as well as, of course, friends, siblings, and family members, and so on. But just why not focus in on you? And if you're part of a relationship, I'll say, what, embrace that relationship, embrace that to the point whereby, if things are not going right, then invest some time into improving that relationship in the way that you need to, and just kind of bring yourself to a place of knowing that this is where you are at, you're with someone, and just to enable you to enjoy life, then do what you can to make it the best relationship that you could possibly have.
Oh, what an amazing key message. You shared so many key messages on during this. So I know the listeners will have benefits so much from that, but I love the way how you split it into two angles. For if you're single, this could help you. And if you are coupled up, then this could possibly help you too. So incredible. You have been such an amazing guest, Colette. Thank you so much for your time and for your energy today. And for everybody who is listening or watching this episode, can you let us know how they can contact you, follow you, and if you've got any future events coming up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what I'll do is I will happy to drop all the links in the show notes.
Yes.
So any events that's coming up, or if anyone's even interested in finding out more about what I do as a financial educator, and if it's something they maybe even thinking that they might even want to find out more about doing themselves, or if someone's interested in finding out more about the financial plan, and it's no obligation, it's just a chat, a call to find out more. There's no sort of pressure to do anything, you're just really finding out. So I'd be more than happy to let your listeners know how they can contact me, in the show notes, perhaps maybe put a couple of links there. So that'd be lovely.
Brilliant. So as Colette has said there, all of the details will be in the show notes, so please make sure that you check them out, get in contact with Colette, follow Colette, because she's got so much information and so much education as well. Educate yourself. Actually, that's one of my favorite acronyms, is KEY, keep educating yourself.
Oh, I love that.
And Colette is woman to go to, should we like some financial education there too. So Colette, once again, thank you so much for today. Such a wonderful, delightful discussion I've had with you. So thank you. And for everybody who is listening, thank you so much for your time and attention today. And until the next show, do take great care of yourself and others too.
Thank you, Teresha. I've loved being on and loved the conversation we've had. So thank you so much for having me on today.
Appreciate you so much. Take care.